Does this sign look familiar? Well, it should. Our hometown cable cameras have been here at St. Anne Shrine and Isle of Mott several times in the past. The only person that I know who hasn't been here is my loving wife, Kay. And before Calvin and I left to come over here today on the 17th of June, 2016, she said, "When are you taking me? You promised me that 19 years ago." This is a very special place for me. If you haven't been here, I wish you would. It's the site of the French Fort Ste, Vermont's oldest settlement. Why are we here on a beautiful, beautiful day in June 2016? We are here to celebrate the 350th anniversary of the arrival of the Carignan Salier Regiment and the construction of Fort Ste. And you know when it was, folks? See it? 1666. So, the celebration will take place today. The most important part, of course, for me is the refreshments, which are scheduled to begin right about now. And at 5:30 this evening, there will be a keynote address with Dr. Andre Senecal called Perilous Seasons. The Carignan Salier Regiment at Isle of Mott, 1665 to 1668. And later tonight at 6:15, not too long from now, the unveiling of a new wayside exhibit and Carignan Salier Regiment traveling interpretive exhibit. We hope to see that. I want to thank our good friend Jim Millard, who's got a website called America's Historic Lakes. If you're unfamiliar with things that happened on and around Lake Champlain, or even if you are, you will get a liberal education by going to this website. Jim talks about Fort Ste. Anne that was built here, one of the earliest French outposts on the lakes. And he goes way back in his descriptions to 1666. The original fort here was just a tiny one, 144 feet by 96 feet. And there was a double log palisade 15 feet high, 4 bastions, but that was all gone. All traces of it were gone by the mid-1800s, so nobody's quite sure exactly where the fort stood. Until now, in the last so many years, they've determined it was right here on this point. A sandy point, the site of the Way of Calvary. This is a beautiful and very moving spot for me to stand here. I could feel the power the first time Calvin brought me here. The Way of Calvary is it's a tree-shaded place where devout Catholics can visit the Stations of the Cross. This whole Sandy Point area has figured prominently in the early history of the lake. And long before those first French missionaries visited the region, it was a gathering place for Native Americans. So there is a power here that dates back even before the mid-1600s. St. Isaac Jacques stopped here for sure in his numerous ill-fated journeys up and down the lakes. And this fort was not occupied very long, only a few years till 1671, but many important events happened here during its short history, and one of those events will be celebrated here today. Calvin and I will chronicle it for you on Hometown Cable. Well, we walked up the hill to the reception hall at St. Anne Shrine. We had a small refreshment, and that was very nice. We're going to have a wonderful speaker later on, but we have a lot of very important people here. Who are you?
Denis Racine from Quebec City.
So delighted to have you down here today. Your buddy over there has written a very good book, but he said his English isn't very good.
No, I'll try. I'll try.
Now, what's his name? Your friend?
Marcel Fournier.
And he wrote a nice book about it.
Yes, on the Carignan Salier, naturally. He's the best genealogist in Quebec.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So tell me what you do up there.
I'm lawyer, but I'm also genealogist, and I'm president of Quebec and France Common Historical Site.
So you've been down here before?
One time.
Only once?
Yeah, because we have the mass for the Racine family gathering quite years ago.
You told me before we went on camera that you are related a few times removed to Celine.
Right.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, I met Christine here, from the nephew, but the niece of Celine in 1976. So it's a long time. We have some years less.
1666 is a long time ago too.
Yeah, too. Yes, right.
You know about this fort, this little fort here, and you know about St. Anne Shrine.
Yes.
So there's a great history here.
Oui, it's important history because the Régiment Carignan-Salière, the King Louis XIV of France sent the regiment in New France because there's a many Indian incursion at this time, and the colony was very in big danger. And so the regiment had the instruction to eliminate the Iroquois, the Indian. So they arrive in Quebec, go into Montreal, at Saint-Jean, sur Richelieu, and they make some expedition here in the Lake Champlain and the west of the Lake Champlain. They don't meet some Indian because the Indian knows that they are coming, but when they see the first expedition was in the winter, so it's not a good time to go an expedition. They come back 1 year later in the summer, next summer, and when the Indians see a lot of people and people with gun, and they said, well, we'll go to negotiate some peace with the French and the French governor and French troop too. And so after that the colony could prosper and the peace will coming.
Have you always loved history from the time you were a small child?
Yes, sure. You know, my father, I asked very often to my father when I was a child, because I'll go to the school and we learn the French literature, the poet Jean Racine, and I asked to my father, well, are we related to Jean Racine? So my father said, I don't know. And that's why my motivation at the beginning to do genealogy, to know if we were related to Jean Racine, the great French poet. But no, after all these years, it's probably the same family, but I couldn't make the proof lean with him.
Couldn't quite make the connection, huh?
Yes, but you know, when I'm going to France quite often, and so I say, my name is Racine. Yeah, yes.
You think there are a few in France?
Yes, right.
Well, this is a fun time here tonight. Very, very nice.
Yeah, it's a nice,
very nice, beautiful weather.
Yeah, sure.
Looks like they got a full house.
Yes, and we'll be here with André Delisle. André is a director of the Musée Ramsay, Château Musée Ramsay at Montreal. 2 years ago, the commission that I spoke a few minutes ago, we signed a convention with the museum to supervise all the ceremony to commemorate Régiment Carignan-Salière in the province of Quebec last year.
Wow.
And the commission went with the museum. And there's many exposition, conference, commemoration all the year in the province of Quebec, and in France too.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Denis, it's nice to meet you.
Pleasure for me.
Have a wonderful evening.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for talking with us.
It's a pleasure.
See you later.
Okay, bye.
We got out of the car a little while ago. He's helping me here. I need a makeup.
I'm an actor also, so I watched these.
Thank you. And he walked over and said, my ancestors built this place.
Yeah, the first Fort Ste, yes.
So who are you?
Well, I'm François Lafrenière, and I'm the president of the Richelieu Valley Historical Society. I live in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, which is also celebrating its 350th anniversary, because the first Fort St. John was built the same year as Fort Ste. Anne.
So you came down here for this occasion. You wouldn't miss this for the world, would you?
Of course, of course. We are both celebrating the same anniversary today. Well, this year.
So tell me the history of your ancestors, the soldiers that came down here.
Okay, they enlisted 1660 or so, and their regiments were sent by the King of France up here to defend the colony against the bad Mohawks, the Iroquois who were attacking our colonies, you know. So to defend them, the king sent some soldiers to build forts to defend the Mohawk River, because here Richelieu River was called the Mohawk River. That's where the Mohawk were coming from to attack us, you know. And so 5 forts were built, 3 in 1665 and 2 in 1666, including Fort Ste. Now on Île à la Motte.
This was a very small fort, though, wasn't it?
Indeed, indeed. It was kind of an advanced post, you know, for the soldiers to leave going south to attack the Iroquois villages, because they didn't have any forts; they had villages over there. So, and a treaty was signed in 1667, and many of these forts along the river were abandoned, more or less, because there were no war anymore. So in Saint-Jean there were other forts later on built against the British, against Americans too.
Oh yeah.
1775 we protected the fort for 45 days before we surrendered, and that made the Americans come to Quebec City in late December instead of October, so they learned about Canadian winters.
Oh yeah.
They were defeated. Montgomery was killed.
Sure.
Arnold was wounded, and the next spring the British Navy came to save Quebec City, and the Americans went back down to Saratoga. Okay, in 1777. So that's another part of our history in common.
So you knew about this little fort for a long time.
Indeed, but we didn't have much about the fort because it was not standing for long. They're all wooden forts, 4 sides, 4 bastions. You know bastions,
Yes.
at the corners. Most of them were at the same shape. In Saint-Jean, Chambly, Sorel,
Yes.
and Sainte-Thérèse. The 5 were about the same size, you know. But within 10 years, they were mostly abandoned.
We're lucky today that we knew exactly where it was.
Indeed, because
There was no
wooden
sign
forts,
of it, you know.
wooden forts are not leaving a lot of traces.
Right.
Later on, when they're going to build forts made out of stones, these will leave more remains, you know, but not the wooden forts.
Do you know in writing exactly what ancestors of yours came here?
Oh wow! I have to check which company built which fort. But since most of our ancestors, most Québécois, have soldats de Carignan-Salière, soldiers, as their ancestors. So were they building this one or the one in Chambly? But they built most of the forts. But who built what? I cannot say today. But I'm gonna have to check.
They probably didn't spend a very long time building it either, did they?
No. The summer usually, summer of 65 and summer of 66. But the peace treaty was signed in 67, so the war was already finished. After we made some raids against the village, the Iroquois village, they signed a peace treaty in 67. So that's why afterwards there were not a lot of actions in these forts.
This is a very nice place, a very peaceful place.
Indeed.
These grounds. Not inside here tonight. It's a lot of noise. But walking around here is good for the soul, you know.
Yeah, but it was at a strategic point because it was at the entrance of the lake. So that was for the French army, the fort for the Iroquois to attack, you know, so that an advanced post. So between the forts they had they send some munitions. It was a kind of a line of communications between the forts. But this one was the more southern fort of the flag, and the closest one from the enemy. The Iroquois at that time. The British were not there, and even at that time, New York was just turning into New York because it was New Amsterdam with the Dutch people. So we had to wait for 1691 to have the first quarrel with England. And they came this way in 1691, but the Fort St. Anne was already gone.
All gone by then, long gone by then.
Indeed.
It's great to have you down here tonight.
Good.
I'm sure you love these occasions.
Sure. And a nice weather too, so everything's okay today. We're very pleased to be here.
So great to meet you, Francois.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Fine.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Takes 2016 and use it as an opportunity to strengthen those ties between New York, Vermont, and Quebec. And I can already see that those ties are reforming after a couple of years as the quadricentennial passed. And Andre and his staff at Chateau Ramsay have been very generous with their time and efforts meeting with us. As Francois and Albert Smith as well have been working with us on this. And so we got together and said, how are we going to get this thing started? Right? And my initial reaction, of course, is, well, we'll put up a wayside exhibit. What else are we going to do? And if you're familiar with our program, the Lake Champlain Basin program, and now the Heritage Area, has been building wayside exhibits since the year 2000. We have well over 300 of these wayside exhibits throughout the Champlain Valley. And each one's special in its own way. I mean, it's amazing the vast amount of history, and we could do 300,000 of these wayside exhibits and not have enough. I worked with Celine and others to develop the content for this, and our top-notch designer for the Lake Champlain Basin program, Elizabeth Lee, was able to pull together the design rather quickly. I'll just bring this to the forefront here. And this is the lamest wayside exhibit developed by the Champlain Valley National Heritage Partnership. We were lucky enough to work with the Al Lamont Historical Society, and I believe that President Barbara Callahan is here. Is Barbara here? Still? No? Oh, okay. Well, unfortunately, she was here earlier. They allowed us to use an original painting by Ernie Haas that depicts the fort as it was in 1666. And without further ado, I'll give you the first look at the new wayside exhibit for Fort Ste. Anne and Al Lamont. So you'll see that like most of the wayside exhibits put up in the north part of the Champlain Valley Heritage Partnership, it's bilingual, French-English. It will be placed down near the fort location shortly. This is a temporary exhibit. We will be getting it fabricated in the outdoor grade interpretive material. And please take a look. There'll be an exhibit here, and there's another one in the room that we're going to open up shortly, and I'll let Celine go ahead and open up the room.
Okay, we invite you to, these are panels that we obtained through our work with Andre Denide from Chateau Ramsay, and it gives the history of Fort Ste. Anne. I think you will enjoy. So if you want to move into the next room and look at our new exhibit, it will be up all week here.
Well, Professor Senecal lasted one of my batteries. I had to switch.
I noticed that. I think you and I should get at least a Bachelor of History degree after that presentation. Each page that you thought was the last went on and on, but boy, oh boy, he's a college professor, doesn't he?
He knows his subject, and he was willing to share it with us today.
You know, it was a delight to be here, Calvin. The room was full. We apologize for the public who couldn't hear much of the speaking because there was no microphone except hometown cable right on the podium. So that was very good. It was a good program. It was a great day to be here. Some people traveled quite a distance to arrive. And as I said in the very beginning, if you haven't visited St. Anne Shrine in Isle La Motte, come here just because it's a wonderful, spiritual, powerful place. Because now you know, 350 years ago in 1666, a little fort was built here. And if you don't know how and why that regiment got together by now, you should go online and check out further.
Rewind it and listen to it. This exhibit will be here just for a week. Here we're out here on the 17th. The exhibit opens up to the public tomorrow on the 18th. It's here for a week, and then it's traveling on to its next destination. So unless you're watching this on the internet in a week after the 17th, you're not going to get a chance to see it locally.
The wayside plaque, though, will be down right at the side of the fort on the sandy point for people who want to visit, Calvin.
Yep, and of course, as the good professor mentioned, Shazy, that's where the Great Shazy River got its name, and eventually the town and the hamlet of Shazy got their names from that military man who was. I never had that description before of what how they were killed there.
He seemed to take a great deal of pleasure in the way he described it to us. No, thank you. I'm glad we had our snacks a couple hours ago. Well, it's been a lot of fun. We wanted to talk to Celine, but she just snuck under the guise of our camera and had to go and chat with some other people. We know how busy she is. She has vested interest in this place, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. You know, and Mark Barry was here, and many years ago, they had a testimonial for Celine's husband, the late Lawrence Paquette, and Mark pointed out that Celine and Lawrence wouldn't come across here to get married until they took the toll off the bridge. So once they took the toll off the Rouse's Point Bridge, then they got married. So that was the story that Mark said at that testimonial many, many years ago.
I love it. It's not very far from our side of the lake, so if you get a chance, drive over here sometime this summer, especially if you can get a day exactly like today would be ideal.
Yes, I see the Clarks here from Champlain, and I'm sure they're visiting one of their two lighthouses while they're here.
We love the lighthouses on Lake Champlain. We enjoyed meeting several of the historians and to know how intense these people are when they're doing genealogy. They don't want to leave any stone unturned. But he said he was a relative of Celine Paquette's. You know, you're probably related to Samuel de Champlain, if the truth were known.
Well, it would have to be from his parents because he never had any children. But Louis Hébert, one of his right-hand men, is a distant relative, and tracing that genealogy, and of course Julie Dowd, who we saw here, is our champion.
A sweet and wonderful person, yes.
Our champion genealogy tracer. There are no Héberts or Heberts that come from him because his male line ran out. So if you're a descendant of Louis Hébert, it's through the woman's side of the family. So there are some Heberts around who might think they're related to Louis Hébert, but it's not the case. They're far, far distant cousins.
She's behind me. You can't escape anymore. Celine, what do you think about this occasion?
This is wonderful. It exceeded my expectations. This is great.
How big a crowd did we have? 200?
I don't think so. I had 100 reservations, but a lot of people showed up who had told me they were coming, but it was good.
So as long as there were enough snacks for me and Calvin.
We had enough snacks and we had enough wine.
You had some good people here, too. These people who do genealogy, as you know, are my favorite people in the world.
I know it.
What a dedicated bunch they are.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
You've been involved with studying the history of this area since you were a little girl, and you mentioned, and Calvin and I have mentioned, your extreme interest in this special place.
Yes, you've interviewed me several times here.
We feel good when we come here with or without the cameras.
Absolutely.
And we felt great tonight to be a part of this celebration.
And did you see this new room here, this
Isn't it
extension?
fantastic?
Yeah, it's very great.
I was surprised when the doors opened. I said, wait a minute.
Yes.
This wasn't here last time we were
No,
here.
this is all new, along with the cottages. See the cottages in the back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Celine, thanks again for your input here and for everything you've done.
You're welcome. It's been fun.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
See you later.
Yeah.
I want to thank our viewers for watching this program, for giving us suggestions about what programs to do. This was one of the best, and if you want an education, watch it over again and call other friends into the room where you can see it. If you can, I want you to know that this program cannot survive into the future without your monetary contributions. It's the only way we have of keeping this program going. So write a generous check if you can, put cash in an envelope and send it to Calvin Castine in care of Hometown Cable, 1477 Ridge Road in Champlain. You know what I always say, who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner.